I have to state that I've been in the state and serving as superintendent for the last 4 years, but I've only been in Glarus for 20 days, so I won't speak directly on Glarus. But I did want to make 3 points with regards to education as a whole for the fine state of Wisconsin. The first I'd like to state is that we need to, a previous speaker has spoke to this, is that our support system, our belt, our shelter that protected our local public schools has been cracked. And that, of course, is where we have a number of private sector employees that was upset with our teachers and other employees protesting in Madison. I ask that we remind that our brothers and sisters in the private sector that everyone, both Democrats and Republicans, had agreed everyone in the state was responsible for the $3.6 billion deficit. But only public employees and their families were targeted to pay that debt back. If any sector, private sector jobs had been targeted as the public employees were, such as teachers, farmers, bankers, doctors, they would have been down in Madison. They would have been protesting just like us. So the first point we want to bring out is that we should not feel bad, or the staff should not feel bad in any way, shape, or form of doing their public duty of protesting the activities that have taken place down in Madison. But on the same token, we also need to somehow or another, bring our private sector employees back to the table again to talk to us as a whole, that we are one group, one community, as we support our local public schools. The second issue I'd like to bring up is dealing with the rhetoric. We made the tough decisions. You know, I'm an old farm boy from Iowa originally, and you can train a monkey basically to implement a cross-board cut. It takes no intelligence, it takes no effort, it takes no courage. The tough decisions will be made at the board level, the village level, the township, and the city levels, where public employees, they'll have to take a look at these budgets, what they've been left with, to make the cuts necessary, that they can balance the budgets, but yet provide the services necessary so that their schools, their villages, and townships' basic needs can be met. That's where the tough decisions will be made, not in Madison. The final thing that was really disappointing to me and talked about was the whole philosophy, if you're not with us, then you're against us. Tony Evers, when he ran for, obviously, the head of BPI and our leader for public education in the state, did not run really as a Democrat or Republican. He ran as an educator. But because he took a small amount of money from WEAC, the teachers union, he was deemed the enemy. Tony Evers had come up with a spending plan, or basically a plan for refinancing public education as we know it, to address the inequities of school districts across the state, particularly for the 18 to 30 districts that are being crippled, who are property rich, but population poor. This balancing act, although it would take an $800 million to implement, would have been one of the largest property tax relief projects done in the last 20 years. When the $600,000 of additional funds were found, hardly any of it was considered to be put as a part of this implementing this plan. Because Tony had taken money, a small amount, from a union, he being deemed the enemy, the entire plan was ignored. And thus, property tax owners across the state will never realize the massive decreases they could have seen in their property tax bills because he was deemed the enemy and his ideas were not considered. So when I looked and reviewed over the last 6 to 8 months, the whole sector has been somewhat discouraging in the sense that our support group that supports the local public schools have been cracked and damaged, and it will take time to heal those. But the politicians pound their chest as though they have made the tough decisions, but in reality, it'll be the local people that will have to make the decisions locally that will impact the lives of their neighbors and their friends. And lastly, to just arbitrarily pick, you're with us or you're against us, and that there's only one set of ideas that will be honored, is saddening, but also crippling for our state. I hope in the future that these 3 things, although they're somewhat troubling, can be addressed, that we look at all ideas and be able to implement this as we move forward. So that's really